All right, we're successfully recording and it's 7 p.m. We'll call to order this meeting of the Town Council of Little Compton. We have all 5 councilors in attendance, and our first item of business is approval of the minutes of March 18th.
Approve the minutes of March 18th, unless anybody has any questions or comments on it.
Second.
Motion's made by Mataronis, second by Moore to approve the minutes. Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote. Councillor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councillor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councillor Moore.
Aye.
Councillor Wallach.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. The next item of business is the minutes of the special meeting on March 24th.
Motion plus place the March 24th meeting on file unless anybody has any questions or comments on that.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Moore. Any discussion? A roll call vote. Councillor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councillor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councillor Moore.
Aye.
Councillor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you. 2 announcements this evening. First, printed in your agenda is that the COVID-19 vaccine is now available as of last week as of a couple of days ago. For people ages 50 and older are now eligible to register to get vaccinated at sites in Rhode Island. So I would encourage any that have not to move out smartly on that. The second announcement is not part of the printed agenda, but I expect that we will be ready to schedule a review of the recommendation for South Shore Road at our next meeting on the 22nd of April. We have in hand, too late to meet the constraints of this meeting, but we have in hand at least the report of the police chief and inputs from solicitor and administrator are in process. The next item, are there any other announcements?
Yeah, I'd like, I just got an FYI, Bob. I went to the sunrise service on Sunday down at the town landing. And
Yes.
First of all, the service was very nice, but the captain of that whole project, Rob Marrow, was there. He was parking cars with another gentleman, and he was doing it at an angle. And by my count, there was 31 or 32 cars that could park there. So I think the original thought was 24. It was very orderly. If the surface, because I've had surface call me what's going to happen down there, and I tell them the same thing. You got to park close together, and it's got to be in an orderly fashion. So I just wanted to update the council on that. It's coming very good, and I really want to thank her for taking the spearhead of this whole project.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Next item of business is the department head reports. We have 5: the clerk, the police chief, the fire chief, the finance director, the assessor, the building department, and the administrator. I would entertain a motion to place these on file. And
I'll move that motion.
I'll second that.
motion is made by Mataronis, second by Wallach to place on file. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a request from Joanna McKenzie to be placed on the agenda. I noticed that Mrs. McKenzie is in the audience with us. Her purposes, as described there, were to raise awareness of her concerns with Plat 30, Lot 14-3, where the development rights had been conveyed by her family. And I would also note that last evening, the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust, under whose purview this property's development is, met and had discussion on the matter as well. In addition, we have a letter from the solicitor noting that this matter properly belongs before the Agricultural Conservancy Trust. Mrs. McKenzie, would you like to make any comments or anything for us? I note that you're muted, ma'am.
Joanne, if you're on a computer, if you
push the space bar, it should unmute you.
That's not one of my dogs.
It's one of my 7.
Joanna, are you able to unmute? Hmm.
There you go.
I,
Yes,
I introduced this to a number of people, the police chief, the fire chief, the town manager, the council, and it was very important to me that something has to be done to protect the rights of the owner of the property, and the Agricultural Conservancy owes that owner a great deal because we have given it to also the Conservancy. The Conservancy has acted, I think, improperly by not doing more. The town manager has been very supportive. The fire chief has been terrific and has in fact said that what's happening now, he could not get trucks or into that property by the right-of-way. The right-of-way has been blocked one time after another. A large truck full of stones, paving stone. I don't know that they're paving stones there. What kind of stones? Gravel is dumped on the right-of-way. And then it takes somebody ordering him to move it. And then he leaves enough to be annoying to any car that would want to go down there. My car. I have a right-of-way to go on that property. And it's in the deed, the deed it's in the deed for the purchase of the property by Karen Dowdman. She has rights. She has rights to be able to get back there to fix the barn that's there. The cupola on the barn has been destroyed by time, wind, and it's leaking. It is making the barn uninhabitable, and it's ruining the cupola. So her father has a bucket truck, and he is able to come and do it, but he's not able to get his bucket truck in there. Now, this to me is just absurd that one gentleman, I wouldn't call him a gentleman, one man is able to prevent this from happening. And my anger at it is just huge. So I wrote a letter, and you've all gotten it, and just wondering what the town will do about this. I do know that in the past, we've had a lot of intervention by the town. I was on the council, and we had a lot of intervention to help people out. It's not happening now. The town has done nothing since I wrote the letter that's changed it one iota. That's really, and I don't know why the town hasn't done it. And I don't know why the police chief hasn't stepped forward with every complaint they've made to him in some way to answer that problem. And the problem that there are no markers. There have been 3 surveys, of which I believe Karen has paid for 2 of them. And the only inspection of it by the Agricultural Conservancy was an aerial inspection from 2019. It is an aerial inspection does not show you that the markers are gone. It does not show you the dirt and things that are there. And if he knows they're coming, he will clear out the big equipment, but he still leaves the stones. If they come in when I wrote this letter and looked at it, they would have seen exactly what the problem was. And that's why I wrote it and circulated. I made a choice not to circulate it to the Secundit Times. And the reason I made that choice is I don't believe the Dowdmans should have their reputation pilloried in town by people who would take sides on the issue. So it has not gone to the greater public. But I have to tell you, unless the council can step forward and do more, and to help out the situation. So we'll leave it. I do know about how you can him stepping on her property, which he does all the time. And I'd like to know why, if you ask the police chief to do something, it doesn't get done. So I leave it there and hope that you have some ideas about this. Why? My suggestion is that somehow there be a no trespass order. And I think that you can do that without too much. So that's where I'll leave you. I hope you will discuss it at least.
Thank you. Comments?
I don't know if the chief wants to say anything or the solicitor wants to say anything. Generally, when these things come up, it's the trust. And I think Bill Richmond wrote her a letter back. So I think the onus should be on to get something, go in there and do whatever they need to do with the help of the solicitor. If that's not done, bring it back to the council and we'll use more forceful action. That's my thought on it. I mean, solicitor want to say anything?
How do
Mr.
I-
President, if I could,
how do we get-
Yes, Chief Raines, go ahead.
I would ask Ms. McKenzie what exactly she'd like the police department to do. I have somewhat of a limited knowledge, obviously being only here for about a year and a half. I have a brief historical knowledge of the property. However, I'm searching for a crime that has been committed, and up until that point, I don't think it's a police matter. If the solicitor has a different view, I will certainly listen to that.
Mr. Chair, I've worked with the chief for about 18 months now, and I find him to be extremely responsive, and frankly, for those of us who work for them, sometimes demanding. So there's no dust on his shoulders. He's on top of things. So on the other hand, he can't invent a crime. However, if the trust, which I believe is the steward of the property, whether or not they own the fee or not, or just the development rights, I'm not sure. If the trust wants to aggressively pursue it, they have their own counsel, but of course, those kind of enforcement actions fall on my office, and we'll do that. If that's what if the townspeople are being adversely affected, and the council think that's a good investment, we can do it one of two ways. But we did it most recently on South Shore Road, probably 5 years ago, with the little houses down there. Was some parking that seemed to be inappropriate, but that was resolved. And frankly, the guy that was involved with it, who was on the other side of the town's case, became quite reasonable, pretty good guy, actually. So it worked out great. But I think the chief is extremely responsive.
All right, thank you. I noticed that Mrs. Dowdman has her hand up and a chat comment that she would like to speak to the matter.
Thank you all. I just, I've owned the house for a little more than 7 years. I my background, I grew up in Little Compton. My background is in landscape architecture and horticulture. I asked the Conservancy about everything that I wanted to do before I bought the property. And I just have not been able to do any of the improvements. I've had agreements with the USDA, with the NRCS, to create different habitats. And, you know, it's a real shame that I'm not able to access the property, but my neighbor is. And whenever I step foot out on that boundary, I'm told my house is going to be burned down. I'm told that I'm going to get killed. There's guns pulled on me and there's constant threats. And I've called the police several times, and it's just an incredibly stressful and heartbreaking situation. This is my life's goal is to live in a property like this and to tend it and to watch it grow. And you know, 3 years of footage of ATVs racing through and dumping on the property. And it's just, I appreciate Johanna stepping forward to speak up for us. And I appreciate that you all are willing to assist. I haven't gotten a lot of answers out of the Agricultural Committee, and I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. And so I've told that I need to make some appointments with you individually to discuss the details, and I'm happy to do that later this week.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, in regards to the meetings, I still believe that the proper forum is the Ag Trust. However, I can sense your frustration. I've never heard of the matter going on. I'm sorry, it just wasn't brought to my attention. If someone pulled a gun on you and that was reported to the police, I don't tell the police what to do, but the people that I work with in the police department, fairly aggressive, but they can also quell a fire pretty quickly. So I will speak with the chief. In regards to meeting with the council individually, you certainly have that right. It's just they can't have a rolling meeting, which would violate the open meetings law. So, but certainly our town administrator has an ear for everybody. So he's probably the filter to go through, as well as the chief, as well as the Ag Trust. Thank you.
Would it be appropriate for the solicitor, the town administrator, to talk to the chairman of the Ag Trust and try to get this ball rolling? And if they're not going to, and I'm not saying that they're not going to do anything, because I'm certainly sure they will, that this has been brought to light, but I think we need something like the solicitor to be aggressive with this, and also the town administrator, along with the chairman of the Ag Trust. So that would be my motion, to allow those three to try to figure this out. And if it doesn't get figured out, then I think Karen Dobman should come back to the councilor, talk to the solicitor, basically the town administrator, and say, look, this isn't solving anything, to try to amend what's going on there.
The last evening, the Ag Trust met, and this was a matter on their agenda. I believe the clerk may have some information regarding what transpired there.
I do, but there is someone on here by the name of Bill that may very well be Bill Richmond. I'm not sure if it is, who has had his hand up for a while. So I'd like to see if that is Bill Richmond so he can respond.
Thanks.
Hi, guys. Yeah, it's Bill Richmond.
Thank you.
Am I in the meeting?
Yes, you are.
Please go ahead.
Hello. Yes, we spoke with Karen last night. We've corresponded previously to Mr. Humphrey's initial point. This is an easement only. We do not own the fee. So fundamentally, this is a dispute of private property owners. At the meeting last night, we committed to Ms. Dobman to look further into what the rights and who holds what rights over that right of way, share that work with her, both for her own benefit and for our own benefit, in terms of, we know that we have a right to use it for stewardship purposes. We don't know what the sum total of the rights in the neighborhood, so to speak, for that right of way are. Is it a public right of way and so on? So we'll find all that out. We'll share that with Ms. Dobbin, and then I believe it's on her to take that information and work out how to best use the right of way and what the differences are in that use with her neighbor. Again, it's a private property dispute. In our view, our responsibility is to ensure that the terms of the easement are being met over the use and physical shape of the property.
And what's the timetable after which you expect to receive that feedback, Bill?
I'll be in the next couple of weeks.
So, Mr. President,
Yes.
I,
Yes, you are.
it seems to me like there's a bunch of issues that are sort of getting conflated here. There's the issue of what are the rights and responsibilities around that right of way, and certainly we should have the Ag Trust lawyer look at that, and I think to have Mr. Humphrey look at that as well would be a good idea to establish who has to do what, who shouldn't do what around that boundary. There's also a safety issue that's been raised, and I think that probably we should have the two chiefs look into, is there a safety issue about access to the property or not, so that we know whether that's actually an issue or not. And then there's an issue that's been raised around potential trespassing, threats. That seems to me to be a police matter, and I don't know to what extent Ms. Dobman has brought those matters to the police when they've come up, but certainly there are ways in which she could bring that before the police and have those addressed, and hopefully they have been addressed if they've been brought up, or if they haven't brought up, they should be. And so we could look into that, but I think keeping those as separate issues is important, because otherwise they kind of all get conflated, and I think that the Ag Trust, to be fair to them, is getting kind of saddled with all of those issues, which aren't reasonably within their purview.
Bob, I think I got a motion on the table to allow the solicitor, the town administrator, and Bill Richmond to try to come to some kind of conclusion on this matter.
There was never a second to that motion.
Right, the motion wasn't seconded, but go ahead, sir.
Well, that would be my motion to allow the solicitor, town administrator, Bill Richmond, and of course, the chief would be involved with that through the solicitor. Solicitor thinks that something needs to be done by the police force, then he would get those people involved. And I would ask Karen Dobman, if anybody does anything like pull a gun on you, then absolutely call the police. And if anybody threatens, I think that's the route you need to take. It's a property dispute. The town's involved with it. And I don't think the council really has the knowledge to go down this. So the solicitor, town administrator, and Bill Richmond and his lawyer, the Ag Trust lawyer, should try to resolve these issues. That's my motion.
I would second that with the friendly amendment that we request a report back by time certain in order to move this along.
I'll amend my motion to include that.
What's
And
the
that
time?
Shall we say by within a month?
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well.
Second meeting in May. And just at least give us an update. I doubt it's going to be clarified by then, but just to give us an update that something's being done.
From the Ag Trust point of view, that's perfect. We meet the first week of every month, so when we expect to have some progress before our next meeting, obviously.
Thank you for your input, Bill.
The motion then made by Councilor Mataronis and seconded by Councilor Wallach is to remand the matter to the solicitor, administrator, and chair of the Ag Trust for the purpose of recommending a resolution subject to the distinction that Counselor Wallach made as to the different modes of this problem, and that report return to us no later than the second meeting of May. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, may I make a comment before you vote?
Yes, Chief.
So while you were discussing that, I was on the phone with the PD itself to do a quick records check in regards to the allegations of the weapon being pulled. There are no records that we have in regards to Ms. Dobbin reporting anyone pulling a firearm on her, just to make that perfectly clear.
Thank you.
I've been threatened with guns. I've been chased off my property. I've been told my house will be set on fire, and I've been told that I will be killed. I've seen the weapons not waved at me, but I've called the police several times. They've responded. They've told me that they have a long history with this person, and that he has problems. They've told me that they can't comment. They don't know whose property it is, and it's not their business to say who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And I understand that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Solicitor.
I think the chief would hardly join with me that the safety of all the citizens is of paramount importance to the police chief, to me, to the town council, to all of us. So if there's this kind of threat, which I know the chief that I work for takes these things very, very seriously. So I can assure you that the guy I work for will be looking into it tomorrow, maybe tonight. Second is, though, Anya Wallach pointed out the multi-dimensions to this very sort of nuanced thing. One is, according to Bill, the trust has access to the stewardship. So that's a limited ownership. Bill also points out that there are private property interests here right now competing. Of course, the town doesn't enforce or defend private property interest, only the town's interest. So I'm sure that Ms. Dobbin's attorney is probably aware of whatever rights his client has. So we have private property interest, we have the trust interest, we have public safety that the chief will look at too, in the event that the town wants the solicitor's office to engage in a civil action. If the town has any rights in this property, aside from public safety, then the council will authorize a lawsuit.
Do I have my hand
Yeah,
up?
you can say something.
Thank you.
Say something.
Can I speak at this moment?
Please, if it's relevant to the motion, and
It-
then you'll have an opportunity as well if you need.
It's relevant to whether it's possible to put out a no trespassing
No,
order.
it's not the motion.
I'd like to know if a resident can put out a no trespassing order and have the police view it as an order that it will affect their actions.
Solicitor, would you have a comment regarding that?
Well, I mean, what the police would probably do, and the chief might correct me, is they'd say, all right, who owns the property? Fine, here's the deed. I own this property. I'm using this as fiction. And I say, look, and there's my boundary lines right there, and I don't want these people coming over there. So what you do is you report to the police chief, and he'll measure it rather carefully as to not excite more possible personal safety issues, but also one that would seem to comport with almost a nuisance claim. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I mean, we have nuisance actions. So I think the chief would weigh that very carefully. I know that it wasn't, I don't know, 6 weeks ago that he ran by yet a new no trespass act that he has worked with his team on. Pretty accurate as far as I can tell. So that can happen, and then there's a violation, and then it would be not a crime originally, it'd be a violation, in my opinion, of the town code. And then as the violations stack up, then they become criminal. So that is one way to do it, but we need to know who owns what. And then the chief has to weigh if this is a criminal matter, or if he thinks perhaps it could be a civil matter where the town wants to come in and assert the rights of private parties.
Okay. Any other discussion relevant to the motion that is on the table? I see none. Hence, a roll call vote of the councilors. Councilor Golembeski,
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis,
Aye.
Councilor Moore,
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you for that. I believe that in parallel with this process of uncovering the steps as we go along, there will be opportunity to make connections back with Mrs. McKenzie concerning the matter that she's brought forward, as well as Mrs. Dowdman.
And can I just reiterate, I think it's been said, but I want to say it really clearly to Ms. Dobman, if you're being threatened, you should let the police force know.
Thank you. The next item of business then is communications. The first of those is a solicitation from DEM for any water quality data the town may have. I'm aware that we have water quality data as a result of our Conservation Commission's work, and I believe they have been made aware of this request and are responding to that. Can anyone affirm that for me?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm on the Conservation Commission. Don's aware, and yeah, he will respond.
Thank you.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Moore to place this correspondence on file. Any further discussion?
Just a quick note on the water quality test. It was stressed that this was going to stay private and not let out into the world, so to speak. I just want to make sure there's no conflict of interest or they're voiding the only thing they had people sign, because now they're giving it to the state. It's probably not a problem, but I'd rather raise it and find out it's not than.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction.
Right. We will give the aggregated data, no individual data. Our practice has been to collect the data. Obviously, you have to collect it individually. And if an individual site is over a certain threshold of the parameters that we're measuring, which is dissolved solids, we contact those people and suggest that there are these guidelines that say you might want to get your water further tested here. The only thing we present publicly is aggregated data. And that's all we will pass on to the state as well.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll then call for a roll call vote on this motion to place on file. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. The second matter of communication is an email received from Ed Bowen expressing concerns with regard to increased use of Warrens Point Road for construction and how it compromises his Stonewall petitioning for relief. This has been a matter that has been addressed in a series of actions, including the building official visiting, and not only Mr. Bowen, but also the construction site. The lead site manager has been very responsive to the direction he's been given. There's not any disagreement over issues that I'm aware of. I believe, based upon Mr. Bowen's response to my summarization to him, that he appreciated the update. I believe he is, at least at this point, satisfied that a response has occurred, and remains to be seen that whether he has any further issues. Is that consistent with Administrator? Is that your understanding?
That's correct. And I might stress that Chief Rains also has visited the area, and he does not see any action on his part at all.
Okay, thank you. I don't see Mr. Bowen here. I believe this matter, at least this interchange, can be placed on file. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Motion made by Golembeski, second by Mataronis. Any further discussion? A roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Councilor Mushin. Aye. Thank you. Our next item is consent calendar.
Motion, place the consent calendar on file unless anybody wants to pull anything for compensation.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski to place on file the consent calendar. Any discussion? A roll call vote. Counselor Golembeski.
Aye.
Counselor Mataronis.
Aye.
Counselor Moore.
Aye.
Counselor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you. The next item of business is the payment of the bills. I would point out that the clerk has noted on your summary that we have an issue with the manner by which our Cox Cable bills have been sorted. And therefore, what we need, they are not before us, but they are due for payment, and there is penalty associated with not paying them in a timely fashion. Therefore, I would seek a motion to pay the bills and to authorize the finance director to work with Cox Business to correct town account balances, including the authorization to pay corrected current charges to each account.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Wallach. Any further discussion?
Is that what that 4,555.09 is about on the end of the bills?
No, that's separate.
That is separate. Is that part of the paying the bills or?
Well, it was separate because it wasn't given to you beforehand.
There was an email about it.
Yes.
Right, so it's so the total is now 34 something, it's not 30 something. Is that correct?
If you're considering that extra final bill for EVOIP, then yes, it would be the larger sum.
And is that,
I was thinking you needed to do it separate.
okay, I don't have a problem either way. I didn't know what we were talking about when we started talking about the Cox bill in the email.
The Cox bill is the wording that you see where it says additionally.
Right,
That is a separate vote that I had intended, but Bob rolled it into the main motion, which is fine. And then later today, we discovered that our new phone system that was installed, the invoices have not been getting to us. And I found that today. So that our $4,555.09 is for the original purchase of all of the phone equipment and for 2 months worth of usage of those phones.
so is the motion to pay the bills, I guess, are we gonna roll them all in together? Is that what we're up to? Which I think is probably what we should do anyway.
Well, that's up to Gary and Anya because they're making the motion and seconding it.
Motion to pay the bills as presented.
So including that,
Including
the
with
extra.
the amendments.
Okay.
With the amendments.
Counselor Wallach, will you second that motion?
I will.
Thank you. The motion then is made and seconded. Is there further discussion? A roll call vote. Counselor Golembeski.
Aye.
Counselor Mataronis.
Aye.
Counselor Moore.
Aye.
Counselor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Having no further business before us, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night, all.
Thank you.